Hello everybody, welcome to the Empressive channel. The R&B singer Brian McKnight is once again responding to the claims that he has abandoned his older biological children. People have noticed that he pretty much erased his children with his new family. Y'all, this is crazy. Now, just to give a backstory, Brian McKnight is an R&B singer who had his peak success in the 90s. And during his musical prime, he was actually married. He was married to his college sweetheart, Julie McKnight. And they were married for 13 years and they have 2 children together. Their oldest son is Brian McKnight Jr. and their youngest son is Niko. Brian also fathered another child outside of his marriage, and that is his daughter Brianna Kelly McKnight. I'm also hearing that he has another daughter as well, so he actually has 4 children that he pretty much doesn't acknowledge to this day. Some years later, he ended up meeting and marrying his current wife, Leilani. Leilani has 2 children from a previous relationship named Julia and Jack, and he has accepted those children as his own. Recently, he also welcomed a newborn child with Leilani, and he calls this child his only true heir. So basically, he's like, forget my other children. I'm starting back at 1. So he doesn't acknowledge his previous family at all. He basically is erasing them from his history, including his ex-wife, Julie. In fact, he did an interview with Karen Clark saying that all of the love songs he wrote in the 90s wasn't at all inspired by his love for Julie. In fact, he said he didn't like anyone until he met his current wife, Leilani. And he says that his only songs with meaning are the songs he wrote about Leilani.
What is the song that really still speaks to you after all of these albums you've worked on?
Well, the ones that do, the only ones that speak to me are the ones that I've written since Leilani came into my life, because those are the only ones that have a meaning.
Wow.
Sure, there were big hits before then, but they weren't based on anything, because I never even liked anyone before I met her.
Oh, wow.
The first time I felt my heartbeat was the day that she came into my life. So everything that I wrote before then wasn't based on anything romantic. It was just, it was arithmetic. I have this many notes and this many syllables.
When I heard this clip, I kind of realized that, okay, Brian has a pattern. When he's not on good terms with somebody, he pretty much erases them from his life. And oftentimes he gets upset about the money. I could imagine that he probably was upset with his ex-wife for wanting child support, okay? And he also doesn't like his daughter's mother because he felt like she only wanted him for money.
Her mother only had a child with me for money in the first place.
So it's clear that he has issues with his children's mothers, and he has issues with his children as well. And this is why he's erasing them from the picture. He was okay with them at one point, but years have gone by since he has posted them or even acknowledged them. Now, when you look at Brian's page, you only see that he acknowledges his stepchildren and his youngest biological child. Like I said, he said his newborn is going to be his only heir, and he actually said that in the caption. He said, "And after I'm gone, I bestow upon you all the fruits of my labor as my true heir to take care of you and yours for the generations to come." He also considers his stepson his pride and joy, and he said that his stepdaughter is his best daughter, and he literally said that in a caption. He also said that his stepdaughter is the reason why he became a girl dad, and she's the perfect daughter that he always wanted. Now, Brian's older children have noticed that he has shown favoritism to his new family, and they called him out on it. And I'm going to read the full post just so we could revisit what they said. This is what Brianna said. "Daddy's little girl was never really a thing for me. Nobody understands what I've been through except my siblings. Believe it or not, I'm not always the person I seem to be. I'm not always happy. And most of the times I'm battling my own demons just like everyone else. I grew up thinking that things that happened to me in my dad's relationship was my fault. I grew up thinking that he doesn't want to come visit me because he doesn't love me. Constantly put behind other kids that he would call his own, while I'm cast into a land far away in the back of his mind. It sucks knowing that someone else who's not even blood related to you comes before you in every single way. It sucks knowing that my phone calls have to go through a stranger I barely know, that my text messages are read without a response, and that my stepmother tells me that they wish the best for me. It kills me to know that it's hard for me and my siblings to get a word in. Not one word. At a very young age, I was always second place in my father's heart, maybe third, fourth, or fifth. depending on the situation. My father hasn't called to wish me a happy birthday in years, and yet I sit by the phone every single year, hoping that one day his heart will change. I'm so fortunate that I have two brothers that are father figures to me, who celebrate me and love me every single day that we make up the time that we lost. The anger and sadness that I hold in my heart every day over this is sickening. It hurts knowing that my brothers went through this at my age and are still going through it, and that my little sister is going through this at her young age. And she said more than that, but y'all get the gist of it. And also, Brian Jr. came out and said, I can't imagine abandoning my children, man. It's hard not to imagine the psyche of a man who truly just turned his back on his actual sons, on his actual blood and creations. It's mind-boggling to me. I don't think there is any situation that merits the way my father has chosen to treat my brother, my sisters, and his grandchildren, one of which being his firstborn son, who also bears our name. It's insane to me to have absolutely no empathy for the type of life be introduced us to, only to resent us for that life catching up with us. It breaks my heart, but not for myself, specifically for my siblings and my children. They don't deserve this at all, not one bit, and I'm not letting this slide, not for 1 second. I've tried my best to take the high road and be the bigger man and all that positive stuff, but there is a much bigger issue here when it comes to Black fathers, especially in entertainment, that need to be addressed. I believe that there's a serious discussion that needs to be had, and a part of me truly feels like our story is the one to begin the conversation that will lead to healing a lot of young men and women with abandonment issues. It's time to tell our side of the story. Now, Brian did come out and he responded to his children, and he basically called his sons moochers. He basically said they're only around for handouts, and he also made a very outrageous allegation about his daughter Brianna.
My two sons are 30 and 27. You want to help them as much as you can, and I did as much as I possibly could. When I stopped doing that for them, BJ was 25 and Niko was 22. I put them out of my house. I gave them an apartment for 2 years, and I said, guys, this is it. This is the time to grow up. I'm giving you 2 years. I'm going to pay for everything for 2 years, but you're going to have to work or do something, because at the end of those 2 years, that's going to be it. It's time to be men here, guys. BJ broke into our home a few months ago, and he put X's on the eyes of our wedding photos. He basically said that I was better off dead to him than alive. I was more valuable to him dead than alive. And that was the end of me dealing with him. So abandonment, deadbeat dad, I'll reiterate, I've never missed a day of child support. I've been there every step of the way. BJ, he talks about Jack's new car. BJ had 3 brand new cars before he was 22. Abandonment has nothing to do with any of this. Deadbeat dad, I've been there every step of the way. And let's also remember that these kids are 30 and 27, not 12. It's time for grown men to be grown men. As far as my daughter is concerned, you know, her mother, if you look back at my Instagram, she was a part of this family too, with Jack and Julie and Leilani and myself. And unfortunately, along the way, a couple years ago, I got wind that there was an older cousin who was above 18 who was quite possibly having sex with her. So I called, as a father should, to the state office for children's affairs there in Arizona, and I never heard anything back. But the next thing that her mother did was to block all of us from her social media, from her phone, and completely estranged her from us. So what that told me was they didn't want me to be involved in her life that way. So to see the post that she said, considering that her mother only had a child with me for money in the first place, and I'll reiterate this, I have not missed a child support payment. She goes to one of the most incredible private schools in Arizona. So I don't know where this is all coming from, but I thought that I needed to let everybody know that there's another side to this story.
So that's what Brian McKnight had to say. He put that disturbing allegation out there about his daughter, which wasn't cool at all. And he basically implied that his 2 older sons were bums. Now, Brian Jr. did an interview and he addressed those claims. And this is what he said.
A lot of people judged the fact that maybe he didn't take care of his children because you all said he didn't. Mm-hmm. Has Brian McKnight supported his sons financially for the last 30 years?
Financially? Well, I mean, well, you say
because
last 30.
Because you're 30 now,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he should have dropped your ass off at 18, 19, 20.
He did. No, okay. he did. Uh-huh. Oh, he definitely did.
Right.
So, And I even knew that before all this, that's knowing my dad was going to be his defense. You throw money into the pot, especially with someone that everyone knows has money, it's going to be pretty hard to not believe what he's saying. But I tell you this, me and my brother have supported ourselves and have taken care of ourselves for the last decade. We toured with him for 7 years now. That was 15 to 21 for me, so that's 13 to 20 for my brother, and we were making our own money outside of even him. And see, all those kinds of things kind of get lost in, I was taking care of them. But child support ain't taking care of your children. And that's the biggest thing I want to tell people. You know, were we living in my dad's house? Sure. Did we get kicked out and have to go fend for ourselves? Oh, yeah.
So that's what Brian Jr. had to say, and I honestly see it from both perspectives. I don't think his sons are bums the way Brian implied. They were working for their father for years, and right now they have their own occupations. Brian Jr. is a singer and producer, and Niko is a singer and photographer. So they're doing their own thing. But I will say this, I don't think Brian McKnight was totally wrong for wanting his sons to stand on their own and start making their own money. But I think it's the way he kind of went about it. He kind of just tossed them to the side and pretty much stopped acknowledging them after a while. And that's really messed up. And Brian doesn't see the problem in that. He feels like he took care of them financially and that's enough. But it's just unfortunate that he's cut off his biological children and he doesn't even have a relationship with his grandchildren. That's just really, really sad and pathetic. And it's also very pathetic that he put that false allegation out there about his daughter. His daughter, Brianna, did sue him for making those allegations that there was an incestuous relationship with her cousin. She sued him for defamation, and Brian was really, really furious when she did that. And it seems like Brian gets the most upset when he has to part with his money. His money is everything to him. I don't know what he would do if he didn't have money. He uses his money to buy affection. He uses his money as a means to control people and control situations. And the minute his money is taken away from him is the minute he feels like he's losing control. And also, he uses his money to justify his actions. He knows that he's not the best father to his oldest children, but he justifies his behavior towards them by bringing up the fact that he gave them money. And he feels like that's all his children really needs is money. And what they need is his time and his emotional support. They need their father, but he doesn't care about that. He has a whole new family that he's focusing on now. And he's rubbing it in his children's face because it elates the narcissist in him. Now, Brian did get a lot of backlash over the past several days for how he was treating his older children and how he was pretty much erasing them from his history. And this is what he said in response to the criticism.
The children that I do not currently have relationships with, I don't post about them. Instead, I post about the children with whom I do have relationships, with whom I am proud of, and about whom I want to share my pride in their accomplishments. I don't live in the past. Another thing a lot of people have been talking about is the lawsuit my adult daughter Brianna brought against me a few years ago. In 2020, my biological daughter Brianna sued me for defamation and breach of contract, and I agreed to pay her $318,000 with no admission of any wrongdoing whatsoever. She dismissed a $1 million case in exchange for payment of $318,000 with no admission that I did anything wrong and no requirement that I retract my statement or remove it from the internet. I did not defame her. I made no false statements. I made up no stories. I want to address the abandonment issue for the last time. I never abandoned anyone. Our estrangement was mutual, and I changed my will the next day. I make absolutely no apologies for naming my infant son Brian. I want him and the world to know that he is the one who is my true legacy.
Now, Brian made himself look a lot worse when he uploaded this video, and I'm actually stunned at the amount of arrogance he has. First of all, let's talk about this case he has with his daughter. His daughter sued him because he was putting out information that was affecting her reputation. Whether or not the allegation was true, It was affecting her reputation, and if he cared anything about his daughter, he would have never put something like that out there. That was highly insensitive. I think Brianna wanted the issue to be deaded. I don't think she wanted to go back and forth in court with her father. She just wanted it to be over. But he's trying to make it seem like his daughter only took the settlement because she was looking for a cash grab. Once again, it's all about the money. He hates when he parts with his money. Anytime he addresses his issues with his family, somehow, some way, finances always come up. He even made it a point to say that he changed his will.
And I changed my will the next day.
So I'm assuming that he probably took his children out of his will. I don't know. I mean, he's doing all of this hateful stuff to make his older children feel bad. And I saw Brian's wife, Leilani, reposting his post on her IG story. So she's actually standing beside him and supporting him. And this is really foolish on her part because she sees all of these red flags. And she doesn't realize that if Brian will treat his own children this way, and if he will disregard the children's mothers, what makes her think that he won't treat her and her children this way? She really needs to watch out. How he's treating his family is absolutely alarming. And it's interesting because his ex-wife, Julie, made a post on Instagram and she said, "Just stop talking. Hashtag don't poke the bear. Mama Bear 2023. And someone in the comments said, "I remember another musician who used to go on and on about his wonderful marriage. I thought then, as Shakespeare said, the lady thou protests too much, methinks." In other words, if something is so great, you don't have to constantly sell it. And Julie said 100. So basically she agreed with that. I think Julie knows Brian very well. I think she knows that he is a narcissist. And I do like the way she's handling the situation. She's not coming out and bashing Brian. She's still staying positive, and she's leading a great example for her children to not return that evil energy that their father is sending to them. Also, Brian's other son, Niko, did post this in his Instagram story. He posted a laughing, crying emoji, and he said, "Nothing but positivity on this side, bozo. Stay tuned, LOL." So that was his response. I don't blame him for being a little petty, but he's still keeping it cute. None of his children are really going in like they should. And this is not to say that they're not hurt by it and they're not affected, but they're mature enough not to go back and forth with their father because they know how the situation is going to end. He's praising his new family now, but they know in the future that's going to unravel. So there's no point in crying about it. Karma is going to do its work. Anyway, tell me what you all think about this video down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you care. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.